They call Kashmir a paradise. But beyond its snow-draped peaks, past the war-torn bunkers and postcard valleys, lies a place the maps erased. A place that clings to you like damp rot. We should never have gone looking. We were content creators chasing ghost stories. Neil, our Srinagar-born drone pilot, hunted obscure ruins. Pia, my girlfriend, planned logistics and scoffed at superstition. Ravi, the history nerd behind our viral Cursed Fort video, had a knack for stirring trouble. Sarah, Neil's cousin, tagged along last minute, claiming she was just observing. I was the cameraman, the one who saw too much. Poshpora surfaced in a yellowed military file Neil borrowed from a journalist friend. No roads led there. The forest had swallowed it whole. The map marked it in red ink. Restricted. That was catnip to us. Day 1, the trek was brutal. Hours through a forest so silent it felt like the air was holding its breath. The trees leaned inward, their branches clawing at the sky. No birds sang, no wind stirred. Just our footsteps crunching on frostbitten leaves. When we reached Poshpora, a heavy mist coiled around the village like a shroud. The houses were skeletal, timber frames sagging, windows hollow, moss crawling over walls like green veins. At the center stood a massive chinar tree, its blackened bark scarred with deep gashes. Nailed to its trunk was a weathered sign, the letters carved with eerie precision. Ravi read it aloud, his voice cracking. The Poshpora Protocol. Do not enter houses with red thread tied around the door handles. Filming inside the masjid is forbidden. If you see children, look away, they died in 1993. Do not respond to the azan after sunset. It is not meant for you. If she sings, close your eyes and cover your ears. Leave before the third crow caws on the second morning. Forget this place, or it will not forget you. Pia forced a laugh. What is this? A haunted Airbnb? But the air shifted. A low, rhythmic sound, like shallow breathing, pulsed from the trees. The mist tightened around us, cold and clammy, as if the village itself was exhaling. We ignored it. Night 1. We camped in a crumbling house with a half-collapsed roof. Shattered mirrors hung on the walls, their surfaces clouded with strange, oily smudges. A tattered prayer rug lay buried under debris, its edges frayed like torn flesh. We lit a fire, filmed some B-roll, and tried to shake the unease. Neil sent his drone skyward for an aerial view. There's a house with red thread on the north end, he said, frowning at the footage. It's glowing faintly. Glowing? Ravi grinned. Let's check it out. No, Sarah snapped, her voice sharp as a blade. That's the first rule. We laughed it off, but her eyes were wide, her hands trembling. At 2:13 a.m., I woke to whispers. Not from our group, outside. Soft, childish voices, overlapping in a jagged chorus. I grabbed my phone and crept to the window. They were there. 6 children, pale as bone, their clothes tattered and stained with dark, wet patches. Their heads twitched unnaturally like broken puppets. Their faces were smeared with something black and viscous, dripping from their chins. They stood in the fog, staring at the house. One girl stepped forward towards me. Her lips parted in a smile, revealing teeth jagged and crusted with dried blood. She raised a hand, her fingers curling as if beckoning. The mirror behind me creaked. I spun around. My reflection was wrong, my face, but not my eyes. They were black, hollow, weeping tar. The reflection grinned wider than my mouth could stretch. I screamed. The others woke, but the children were gone. The mirror was just a mirror again. Sarah looked grim. They're stuck here, she whispered. They think you're one of them now. Day 2. The masjid morning brought no relief. The mist thickened, and the village seemed to shift. Houses loomed closer, their windows darker. We explored cautiously, avoiding the house with the red thread. Its door handle gleamed faintly, the thread pulsing like a vein. The masjid crouched at the village's edge, its minaret cracked, its walls charred. The air around it was heavy, like breathing through wet cloth. Ravi, ever reckless, raised his phone to film. "It's just Ash," he said, stepping inside. Sarah lunged forward. "Stop." Too late. The air inside the masjid shimmered, and a low hum filled the silence. Ravi froze, his phone slipping from his hand. When he stumbled out, his face was ashen, his eyes vacant. "What did you see?" I demanded. He stared past me. She was praying. Her hands, they weren't hands. His phone screen was black, the footage erased. But when I touched it, my fingers came away wet with something warm and coppery. At dusk, the azan. As the sun bled into the horizon, the village transformed. Colors dulled to gray, shadows stretched and writhed like living things. Then the azan began. It wasn't from the masjid. It rose from the forest, low, guttural, each syllable warped and dripping with malice. The words were wrong, twisted into something profane. The sound clawed at my mind, urging me to answer. Pia dropped to her knees, whispering prayers she'd learned as a child. Her voice grew louder, frantic, reciting verses she shouldn't know, ancient guttural words that made my skin crawl. "Stoop," Sarah screamed, slapping her hard. Pia gasped, her eyes clearing. Blood trickled from her nose. The forest stirred. Tall, hunched shapes glided through the trees, faceless, their limbs too long, their movements jerky and wrong, their heads tilted as if listening. One paused, its featureless face turning toward us. It raised a hand, its fingers splitting into thin, writhing tendrils. We ran back to the house, barricading the door with broken furniture. The fire flickered, casting shadows that moved when we didn't. Night 2. We heard a lullaby at 3:17 a.m. It began as a normal lullaby, soft and feminine, slithered through the walls. It was beautiful at first, then sour, the notes curdling into a wail that burrowed into our skulls. The air grew thick, the shadows pulsing in time with the song. Sarah sobbed, clawing at her ears. "She's here." Ravi stood, his face slack, a dreamy smile spreading across his lips. "She's calling." We grabbed him, but he was too strong, his eyes glassy and unseeing. He tore free and walked into the fog, humming the lullaby. A wet crunch echoed through the night, like bone splintering. The song stopped, and so did Ravi. Neil flew the drone to find him. The footage showed a clearing, Ravi's body twisted at impossible angles, his face frozen in a scream. Something stood over him, tall, cloaked, its head a writhing mass of shadow. The drone crashed, its feed cutting to static. Morning came, but the sun was a faint smear behind the mist. We were down to 3. Neil was unraveling, muttering about the drone's last frame. Pia clutched a knife, her knuckles white. I kept seeing the children's faces in every shadow. "We need to leave," Pia said. "Now." "The third crow hasn't cawed," Sarah whispered. "We can't." "Then we break the rules," I said, desperate. "What's in the house with the red thread?" Sarah shook her head, tears streaming. "You don't understand. It's not a house. It's her." Neil, half mad, grabbed his gear. "I'm done waiting." He marched toward the house with the red thread, ignoring our shouts. The door was ajar, the thread glowing brighter now, pulsing like a heartbeat. Neil stepped inside. The scream that followed wasn't human. We ran to the house, but the door slammed shut. The thread burned red hot, sizzling against the wood. Through the window, we saw Neil, or what was left of him. His body hung in the air, limbs twitching, his skin peeling away in strips. A figure stood before him, cloaked in tattered robes, its face a void that pulsed with faint, sickly light. It reached into Neil's chest, and his scream cut off as his body collapsed into ash. The figure turned toward us. We ran for our life. Day 3. The crow cawed once at 11:32 a.m., twice at noon. The third never came. Sarah's face was grim. "She's not letting us go," Pia snapped. "Then we fight. Burn it down, all of it." I turned to Sarah, but she was already walking toward the masjid, her steps deliberate. "My grandmother lived here," she said. "She was one of the last to leave. She hid something in the masjid. So did I." She entered the burnt doors and slammed them shut. The ground trembled. A sound like 1,000 voices screaming at once tore through the air. The masjid imploded, collapsing into a pile of ash and splintered wood. The mist lifted slightly. The third crow cawed. We ran. Pia and I made it out. The forest spat us back into the world, but it kept pieces of us. The footage is gone, corrupted, erased, as if the village unmade it. Our names vanished from our channel's metadata. Neil's drone logs, Ravi's notes, Sarah's backpack, all wiped clean. Pia doesn't pray anymore. She avoids mirrors, says they feel wrong. At night, she wakes screaming, clawing at her ears as if the lullaby never stopped. And me? I hear it too. The soft caw, the humming, the whispers of children who aren't there. My reflection isn't mine anymore. It moves when I don't. Its smile too wide, its eyes too black. We broke the rules. We forgot the last one. And now, Poshpora remembers us. It's in my dreams, in the shadows, in the silence between heartbeats. Last night, I found red thread tied around my door handle.